The final part of our offensive line breakdown, gentlemen, is our kind of questions and bold predictions. And so we're going to kind of go over some of the questions that we have about the offensive line and kind of answer some of them, but then kind of put some of them out in the ether and know that they're going to get answered as the season goes on and things of that nature. And we're also going to talk about some intriguing matchups that this offensive line is going to have throughout the season and what all of that means. And of course, we'll close it up with our bold predictions as we always do. Some more bold than others, as we have found out as we go through things, gentlemen.
I got to say this before we go to the questions, Vince. We kind of need to get rid of the most telling matchups part of these breakdowns. Okay. Because the answer's the same every time. It's Miami and Texas A&M.
Miami and Texas A&M, first two of the year.
It's so we'll go a little bit deeper into that this time, but it's just the way that the schedule's set up. I mean, it's like, what are your most selling matchups? Your first two, you got to get through those.
Right.
100%.
No doubt about it. And
Trev, you got something to say? I see you kind of
go for it.
You got a little something to say about that. Go for it.
No, I was going to add one more team outside of just Texas A&M and Miami. But you're right. I mean, it is. The most
Purdue's going to be legit. I get it, man.
Yeah, baby.
Who is that team? I mean, you want to save it for that period?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. I just think it's funny. It's like, good Lord. Okay, every week it's going to start off the same. Well, Miami and A&M are the first big test, but we'll take it a little bit deeper. And I'm curious to see what Trev has to say about that one. But anyway, Vince, let's go through the questions. So we can kind of work through these a little bit quickly.
Yep. Agreed. So the first big question, we've kind of been touching on this as we have gone along on specific players and things like that. But can this offensive line stay healthy, Trev? I think that we love the depth. We love a lot of things about this offensive line, but the things that have derailed it in the past or gotten it off of the path that everyone thought they were going to be on has been the injuries. And so they're already dealing with 2 injuries on this offensive line right now. Can they stay healthy for the the majority of the season?
Yeah, I mean, look, man, if I had an answer to it, I'd feel a lot better going into this 2025 season than what I do right now. Numbers tell us they won't be. I mean, that's just, you're going to have injuries. Things are going to happen. You're going to miss some guys. But look, at the end of the day, this is the key to all of it. Anthony Knapp can't make the strides he needs to. Billy Schrouth and Emil Wagner can't make the emergence as studs that they need to. Gerby Lambert can't make the push that he needs to. Ashton Craig can't make the impact that he needs to if they're not healthy. And that's going to be the biggest key to this group, because that's going to fall into every other question that we have here on this list. That's going to fall into breakout performances and impact performances and what's the biggest games. You can't do any of that if you're on the sideline in street clothes.
What's question number 2, Trev?
Question number 2 is, can it reach its full potential?
Which you can't do, to your point, if you aren't healthy. I mean, so if number 1 doesn't get answered, the rest of them are not going to get answered either. It's going to be a struggle. It doesn't mean that they can't be good enough to be a playoff team and maybe win a game or two. But look, this notion that, they did it last year. Guys, last year was a down year in college football. We talked about this. We said it before the season. We can't then go retract and be like, no. Actually, it was every bit as good as it was in the past because Notre Dame went to the title game. They were fortunate last year that they had great depth, that they have great coaching, that they had great leadership, that they had playmakers, but they were also fortunate that there was no 2021 Georgia out there, that there was no 2020 Bama or 2019 LSU or 2018 Clemson or in like a 2018 Clemson, Oklahoma, and Bama, where they'd have been lucky to get to the semifinals. So you've got to be better than you were last year if you want to get as far as you got last year, because teams, in my opinion, will be better this year. And your offensive line, you can't afford to go through that again, where you have 2-3 guys going down with injuries. You just can't, especially at the same time. And you can't go through another year of Joe Rudolph not making the right personnel decisions. You need him to make, and I don't know what those are. I'm not trying to say this is the right decision, and if he doesn't do what I want him to do, it's the wrong decision. We'll find out what the right decision is. You just hope that whatever it is, whatever it takes to get your best 5 on the field, and it doesn't mean your 5 best individual players. It's your best group of 5. And sometimes one of your 5 best guys isn't there because one of your 5 best can't play center or can't play left tackle or whatever the case may be. But to reach your full potential, you've got to be healthy. You need Rudolph to make good decisions. You need him to improve his ability to teach, effectively get pass pro taken care of. And yes, there are things the quarterbacks have to do and the running backs have to do and all that kind of stuff. Pass pro is a team effort, but it starts up front. And, can they be more consistent in the postseason running the football? Can they be more consistently dominant than they were last year? Can they be more steady from week to week where they look pretty good one week and then look just pretty like what they don't have a clue what they're doing the next week? Like, that's got to go. How do you look like you looked against Texas A&M and then that same group kind of looks like it did against Louisville? Well, here's why. Because 2 weeks before that, 2 of the guys that you played against Texas A&M were no longer in the starting lineup, which Trev brought up earlier. These things all kind of go together. At the end of the day, this line, there's no doubt this line has big-time potential. There's no doubt. No doubt. I think there is some doubt about whether or not they're going to play to that full potential. I think that still remains a question because we haven't seen them do it yet in 2 years. I think they can, but they've got to go prove it, and it still remains a question. An optimistic one, but still a question.
So let's jump into the category that you said we wanted to throw out. But we got one more question. Who steps up?
Well, we have can Rudolph prove himself to be an elite online coach?
Well, I think that's kind of answered that. Okay.
Well, I didn't say it, but that's part of it. Like,
yeah.
That's what I think. I think these questions all tie together.
Yeah, no, I
completely
agree with you.
Who steps up?
Yeah.
Like I just got done saying, I think Anthony Knapp can do this, this, and this. There's precedent that Anthony Knapp will do this, this, and this. But is he going to do it?
Right.
I think Sylvan Absher is going to be good. I think he can do this. I think he can do that. But will he do it? Vince is like you're NFL wise, you're the still the head of the Cam Hart fan club, right? In the NFL. But now in college, you've kind of taken over the Ashton Craig fan club. And I don't mean that like he's not really a fan. It's his evaluation leads him to believe that Ashton Craig can be a stud. So we just kind of joke with him about the fan club thing. I don't disagree. Trev doesn't disagree, but like you obviously believe it, but you also will say, but he's got to go show it. I think Emil Wagner getting a lot of preseason All-American love. He's got to go show it. I think Billy Schroth can be a stud. He's got to go show it. Who steps up? Because they won't win a Joe Moore award if everybody just repeats what they did last year. They won't be good enough to compete for a championship this year if everybody plays the way they did last year. It's just not going to happen. So who steps up? And then how many someone step up, I think is important too. And I think it all gets tied into that's part of Joe Rudolph putting the right people in the right place. It's part of Joe Rudolph doing the things necessary to get the most out of his offensive line. I think these things all tie together. And in one breath, we're excited about the O-line, and the next breath, I really don't know what they're going to do. If we're really being objective about it, we can talk about the potential, but also say, I think this unit has more to prove than the wide receivers. I mean, the only thing the wide receivers got to prove that they can do it in a Notre Dame uniform, what they've already done somewhere else at the Power 5 level. Like, the offensive line is completely different. Nobody's proven that they can be what they need to be, not consistently. And that's why I think that there's still a lot of questions about this line. But guys, in the same breath, there's so much talent and potential that it's hard not to be excited about it too. And if Joe Rudolph is the coach that we hope he is, and Marcus Freeman thinks he is, it's going to be a fun year on the offensive line, but they've still got to go prove it.
No doubt about it. And proving it starts in week one. And we will find out very quickly kind of where this offensive line stands when Notre Dame goes on the road against Miami. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, they have a bye week, but they're going to have to figure it out again when Texas A&M comes calling in game 2/week 3. So
no warm-up games.
No.
For Notre Dame's offensive line.
No.
And what do you get for fall camp? You've got to go into your defense for the first 3 weeks of fall camp.
They'll be tested.
You don't go get your own defense. You do in fall camp. You don't during the regular season, but you definitely go against your defensive line in fall camp. And that's going to be
right.
There's going to be a trial. There's going to be a baptism by fire, not water, with this offensive line for the first couple months of the season if you include fall camp.
Yeah, we're not going to have to wait long to find out what this offensive line is going to be made of. And can they use now their experience to kind of anchor them going into a matchup against Miami on the road to open up the season for the 5th season in a row now? Can they use that experience that now you're opening up at home at night against a Texas A&M team that brings back Albert Regis and Cassius Howell, and they brought in TJ Searcy, and there's a lot of talent on both of these defensive lines. The third team that I was going to bring up in the most telling matchups is Boise State. I think their defensive line is really good. Between Jaden Virgin Morgan and Braxton Feely. I mean, we're talking about two guys that combined last season for like 24 and a half, almost 25 tackles for a loss, combined for over double-digit sacks. That's going to be another telling matchup for them, because you get the hype of the first couple games out of the way and like the magnitude of both of those. This Boise State game, it's not a night game kickoff. It's the beginning of a 3-game homestead for you guys off the road from Arkansas, which will also be another test. I don't think Arkansas has an elite defensive line. They have elite size. I mean, one of their defensive tackles is like 350 pounds. But I think from a skill set wise, I think Boise State's going to be another challenge. Not more so than Texas A&M and Miami, but I think more timing of where the season is at. I think that's going to be an interesting challenge for that offensive line.
Vince, are there any other games that you look at and say, okay, because I could argue Miami's got some new guys on the D-line. A&M's got some new guys on the D-line. We may not get there. Miami's in a new defense. There's a chance that we may get a little bit of a false confidence from that first 2 games as well. Like what if Miami's D-line isn't quite up to speed in game 1 with a new defensive coordinator and a couple new guys into the system? Now, yes, they have some studs coming back, obviously, but Reuben Bain is one of the best defensive linemen they're going to play all year, but there's some question marks still there. They're going to have a new looking linebacker room. A&M lost 1 first-round draft pick and a couple other second, third-round draft picks from last year's line. It's still going to be very good, but I don't know that it's going to be last year's line. And it's still, game 3 for them? So if they perform well, I don't think it's a great sign, but I don't know that it's necessarily okay. Just go ahead and hand him the Joe Moore Award now. I have an idea, Vince. Do you have any other games? Trev brought up Boise State. Are there any other games or stretches that you look at and say, now that's when I'm going to really feel confident that this line can go be that sort of dominant unit?
Well, the key word there is dominant. And for me, I think the stretch of Boise, NC State, Southern Cal, all at home, all games that could bite you if you're not ready to compete. And Notre Dame has shown that they can dominate against USC's defense. USC is constantly trying to get better on defense. And we also know that Southern Cal likes to quit a little bit on defense. And so, are you going to take the handoff from previous offensive lines where you just kind of put USC into submission and just kind of take over? I think that is where it's going to tell me whether this line is dominant or whether this line is just very good. Can you take the soul from USC, who is going to complain about flying out to Notre Dame, out to Indiana, out to the Midwest, and, all of those things, and then just take their soul and just run over them? That's where I'm going to know, okay, this team is here to play. This offensive line is going to be a dominant bunch. Like that. The USC game, when it's a home game, is always kind of a marker for me because it's always kind of right in the middle of the season in that October window. You kind of are who you are at this point. Can you just take the soul of USC and run with it? I think that's going to be a big stretch for me.
I have a stretch in a game that are really going to be the final test for me. The stretch, and you guys have already talked about this, it's Boise to USC, because I'll throw NC State in there. I mean, Trev, you and I had 2 NC State defensive linemen on our all-opponent team, and Trevally Price and Brandon Cleveland. They've got a very athletic linebacker room. And so then you throw in USC, and not that USC is going to have a great front 7, but it's like you said, Vince, it's not about, it's a big test. It's like, it's a rivalry game and all that. Can you dominate? Trev, you talk about Boise State. That's a really good front 7. Then the other game is the Pitt game. To me, is going to be a test for how you perform against the really athletic defenses. That D line is good at Pitt, but it's also about their linebackers fly to the football. I mean, their top two linebackers, Trev, what did they combine for? Wasn't it something like 26 tackles for loss or something crazy like that? Let me pull up the Pitt numbers last year, but it was Kyle Lewis. Where is Pitt? There it is, Pittsburgh right there. Kyle Lewis had 15 and a half tackles. Actually, I undersold him. Kyle Lewis had 15 and a half tackles for loss last year. Rasheem Biles had 14 and a half tackles for loss last year. And Braylon Lovelace had 10 and a half tackles for loss last year. So their linebackers attack. And sacks-wise, those three guys combined for 12 and a half, 16 and a half sacks. So a unit that combined for 40 and a half tackles for loss means well over double of those were run stops behind the lines. They fly to the ball, downhill and outside. If you can't handle that speed, then you're going to struggle when you go play Georgia, when you go play some of the top teams that have really athletic linebackers, Ohio State, teams like that. And so I think that's another big test for me. If you can dominate that Pitt front seven, that's when I'm going to be like, all right, hand them the Joe Moore Award, assuming they've done all the other things. Hand them the Joe Moore Award, and more importantly, this playoff run is going to be a lot of fun. That's my stretch. What say you guys? That's the most underrated front seven in college football. I know Kyle Lewis gets a lot of attention, but that entire front seven is pretty darn good.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, I think I've said this before on multiple shows. I think Pitt's the most underrated opponent on their schedule. I really do. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about, Arkansas, it's on the road, SEC. They got Taylon Green, who's like 6'10", and he's a quarterback. It's like, yeah, look, I get all that. But people forget that Pitt started out last year 7-0. Eli Holstein, with that offense, they bring back a core of veteran receivers. Really love Desmond Reed. He was a top 5 running back for me heading into this season. And not on Notre Dame's schedule. I'm talking about in college football.
Right.
Very athletic group of linebackers on the road at Pitt in November. I mean, that is going to be a very underrated game. There's going to be a game, and it could very well be Pitt. Brian, to your point, there is going to be a game this season where, whether it's CJ or Kenny, maybe they just don't have it that day for whatever reason. I'm not expecting a first-year starter to come in and light up the world every single game, every single Saturday and one Sunday. Vince is. But no, I mean, look, at the end of the day, there will be a game where Mike Denbrock is just going to have to sit down Joe Rudolph and the big hogs up front and say, hey, we need you today. We're just going to have to lean on you today. And Jeremiah Love, Jadarian, hey, Coach Sider, your guys are going to touch the ball 30, 40 times today, and that's just what it's going to have to be. It could very well be the Pitt game, but the offensive line is going to have to show out and be the anchor of the offense in one of their 12 regular season games. Don't know who it's going to be yet, but it's going to be very telling. But, Brian, to your point, Pitt, I love that pick. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, of course, playoffs. But that I think is the final test for this team is even if you win the Joe Moore Award, if you don't then show up and do it in the postseason, it doesn't matter.
Right. 100%.
And that's why I'm not as like, the line played great because they didn't play great when it mattered most, and that's in the postseason.
It matters what you do in December and January now. That's where
when you're when you're Notre Dame. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, because look, at the end of the day, what are the expectations of Notre Dame? It's win national championships. It's be successful in the postseason. That's what college football is now. What is the postseason? And it's a tournament. You got to do your best. It's win or go home, and so that's where Notre Dame needs to be at its best. They have to get there. That's super important. Don't get me wrong, super important to get there. But once you're there, what do you do in the postseason? That's what will ultimately matter and what will ultimately shape everybody's thoughts about this team and teams in the future. So that's where we are.
Well, and I think that also, and Vince, you just answered the whole what makes a successful season, which is the next. I think you literally just answered it. It's do what you do in the regular season, but you're Notre Dame. It's when I think of great Notre Dame's offensive lines, I think of 1992, that Notre Dame offensive line just taking that Cotton Bowl against A&M over and just dominating in the second half of that game. Yep. Just dominating. That's what I think of. And when I think of great offensive lines, I think of Notre Dame going against NC State's D-line in 2017 that had 4 NFL draft picks, including the number 5 overall pick, and every other draft pick was 4th round or higher. Their middle linebackers a third, and Notre Dame runs for over 300 yards in that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it didn't matter. There's nothing NC State could do about it. Like, that's all fine and dandy, but if you don't do it in the postseason, it ultimately it doesn't mean a whole lot.
Doesn't matter.
Not saying that O-line didn't do that, because I thought they battled their tails off against LSU. I'm simply making a point about this line.
Right. And
so what constitutes a successful season? You are a driver of success during the regular season, and you win battles in the postseason. That's a successful season for this group.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I mean, you could make that argument, obviously, for every position group on the field.
Even more so
for when you're at Notre Dame, offensive line it's held to a different standard.
I'll say this. You could say that about every unit, but not every unit needs to do that for them to compete for a championship. This one does.
Fair. Because if you dominate up front, that just opens up everything. Just absolutely everything.
But if Jeremiah Love's a monster, but the offensive line's getting its butt kicked in the playoffs,
right?
Guess what's going to happen? It's going to look a lot like the Penn State game. And there's not a lot he's going to be able to do about it. So, yeah. CJ Carr, Kenny mentioned could be studs, but if they get in the postseason and they're just getting harassed all game because the O-line can't pass pro, doesn't matter.
Right. 100%. 100%. So this is kind of the fun part of the show, and this is where we come up with our bold predictions. And like I said, some are more bold than others, and some are go in different directions than others, but this is where we make our bold predictions. And these predictions are meant to be fun, but rooted in reality. And that's what makes them a bold prediction. A bold prediction isn't, I don't even know what a non-bold prediction would be.
Notre Dame rushes for 200 yards a game.
Yeah.
Again.
Right. Again. Yeah, exactly. That's not a bold prediction. It might be a bold prediction if you live in West Lafayette, but it's not a bold prediction if you live in South Bend.
Or Los Angeles.
Right. Oh, boy. UCLA? Is that what you're referring to?
No.
I didn't
think
so.
They play in Pasadena.
Oh, okay. Oh. They still have LA in their name, though. So, I mean,
they play in Pasadena.
All right.
Boston College is not in Boston either. They play, where do they play? Chestnut Hill. Just saying. If you play in LA,
But you know where Notre Dame plays? They play in Notre Dame, Indiana,
right?
Which people tend to mess up all the time.
People don't believe me when I tell them that.
I know.
No, that campus is technically Notre Dame, Indiana.
Correct. They have their own zip code, the whole deal. But anyway, it's a fight I have with people all the time. But anyway, so it is
That's
time
why
for
my wife has her business mail set up at Notre Dame.
Nice.
She gets her business. Mine is technically too, but we use the same mailbox. But when she launched her website, she's like, I want to have my mailbox at the post office of Notre Dame, because you can't have it at your home since we both work out at home.
Right.
I was like, why? She goes, because I want it to say Notre Dame, Indiana. So I love this woman so much.
Hey, man.
So, yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a P.O. box. Let's roll.
Anyway, bold predictions.
Trev, why don't you hit us with your bold predictions? What do you got?
Notre Dame's going to rush for 201 yards a game. And
he's getting what is this? Price is Right?
Yeah. $1, Bob.
$1.
I have two. I have one player prediction and then one unit prediction. My player prediction, Billy Schrauth is going to emerge as the number one offensive lineman in this group, and it's going to be by a lot. I think there's been a lot of conversation this offseason about Ashton Craig's return to health and Anthony Knapp's big jump, and Emil Wagner's been consistently the most highest talked about offensive line in the projected starting lineup outside of Charles Jagasaw. That situation is what it is. But look, the run game is better with Billy Schrauth in there. He was shown last year that he was their most consistent pass blocker as well when he started. I think by the end of this season, people will be talking about Billy Schrauth as Notre Dame's best offensive lineman. I don't think it's going to be all that particularly close. Not that the other guys are bad. I just think he's going to play at a very elite level. I think he's going to finally piece together a good season. He's of health. I don't think he's going to miss any time, and I think he ends this year with 0 sacks allowed.
Ooh.
That's my player one.
Okay.
My unit prediction, and you guys can take this how it is or however you want, whatever direction, but whoever starts against Miami will also start in the CFP semifinals.
Okay.
I don't think the offensive line is going to change.
Okay.
Take that for what you will. That could be they all stay healthy, and that's great. That could be I like to think of it as a Joe Rudolph, for the first time in his career in South Bend, makes the correct decision of rolling out the starting 5 in week 1.
And you believe they dominate to the point where Charles Jagusah just doesn't have a place to play when he gets back? Is that kind of how you're seeing it? That's bold.
That is bold.
I think that part's – if you just said this 2 weeks ago, I'd be like, dude, that's not a bold prediction. You're just basically predicting no one gets hurt. I think this dynamic of Jagusah coming back at some point does make that a very intriguing prediction.
I am very much in the show me boat with him.
No. Trevor? You in the show me mode?
Yeah,
Get out of here.
Look, I mean, I said it earlier in the show. The second, whether it's Sullivan Absher, or they kick out Joe Otting, or kick out Ashton Craig, or it's Gerby Lambert, second he takes a snap against Texas A&M, he has more experience at right guard than Charles Jagusah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if this group is rolling like we think that it can, I think it's going to be too much of a risky move that we can put him in. He has the highest ceiling of the room. It's like, and we look, man, at the end of the day, I want to see him stay healthy for it. And I don't know if just putting him in again at the end of the season or in the postseason is the best way to do that. And so I think whoever starts against Miami is going to start in the playoffs.
Interesting. What about you, Vince?
Bold. Well, this one's not going to surprise anybody. Bold. I already let everybody know at our annual Ashton Craig meeting, our Ashton Craig fan club meetings. I already let them know, so they were kind of in on this already. But Ashton Craig is going to be on at least one All-America team, whether that's first, second, or third team. He will be on an All-America team at the end of the season. And so that is my individual bold prediction. And then my team bold prediction is that they will be a Joe Moore Award finalist. So top 3. I'm not bold enough to say they're going to win it because there's just enough. I know. There's enough out there of questions that I'm not sure about, but I'm saying they will be a finalist, which means top 3 for me. So my team is that they are top 3. My individual is that Ashton Craig will be an All-American by the end of the season.
What do you couldn't even just go with them winning it all, huh? You had to hedge your bet.
I had to hedge it just a skosh. I didn't hedge it at all on the other one, so I'm going to hedge it a little bit on this one.
Well, look, fellas, we're talking about the Notre Dame offensive line. If you can't be super bold on this one, then I don't know when you can be super bold. This is O-line U, right? So I've actually got four bold predictions.
You're bold, just your number of predictions.
Numero uno. Notre Dame will have 3 players that earn at least one All-American honor, first, second, or third team. 3 offensive linemen. One of them will be Anthony Knapp. Anthony Knapp will cut his pressure numbers in half from last season, and not because he misses games with an injury. I don't know whether that's going to be left tackle or inside, but that's going to be the number. Number 3, Notre Dame will average over 6 yards a carry for the first time since 2017. That's almost a whole half a yard better than what they were last year. And if you remember last year, Notre Dame was at 5.66, which if you want to say, well, how good is that? That ranked them 7th in college football last year and 2nd, 3rd, 4th amongst Power 4 teams. So if they average what I think they're going to average, that gets them into the top 1 or top 2, because New Mexico was at 6.67. Next highest is 6.08. I think they're going to average more than 6 yards a carry this year. Last time they did that, fellas, they won the Joe Moore Award back in 2017. They will also win the Joe Moore Award in 2025. So 3 All-Americans, over 6 yards a carry. Knapp will be one of those All-Americans, and Notre Dame wins the Joe Moore Award. That's my bold predictions for the Notre Dame offensive line. And I think that's the only way you can really be bold with this unit when you consider what the expectation and standard is. So there you go.
See, you had to outbold me, but I appreciate it.
I mean, dude, it's the O-line. We got to come correct. I mean, if you can't do that in this group, when you going to do it? You know?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right. If you guys are more than welcome to put your bold predictions in the chat as we kind of polish up this section of our offensive line talk, and we'll kind of throw them up if you would like. But look, the offensive line is poised to have a great season. They are deep. They are talented. which 5 is it going to be? And which 5 is it going to be at the end of August, and which 5 is it going to be in December? I think those are some of the biggest question marks that we've got, and I'm excited to watch it play out because there's a ton of talent around them, and how this offensive line plays this year will absolutely dictate where this offense is, the entire season and into the postseason. And you're absolutely right, Brian. This team this group needs to play their best football in December and January. And if they do, Notre Dame's going to have a good season. So very excited to watch this group play. There is absolutely no doubt about it. So that's going to do it for our offensive line talk. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends, and of course, jump on our premium message board. That's boards.irishbreakdown.com for all of your intel needs. And then your favorite podcasting site that you subscribe to, make sure you do hit that subscribe button, and then go ahead, give us a review, give us a 5-star review. You can elaborate on that review if you would like, or you can just hit all 5 of those stars and hit submit. It really helps us out with the algorithm and all of those fun things when people are looking for a Notre Dame podcast to listen to. And we really appreciate those downloads and everything else. That is one of the major things that you can do to help us out. And of course, hitting that like button and the subscribe button on the YouTube channel also helps us out tremendously. So it doesn't cost you anything, just takes a little bit of your time, which we know is precious and is very expensive as well. But it's no dollars out of your pocket. And we appreciate the time that takes. Really, really does help us out. And we're not just saying that, it does help us out big time. Very much so. So again, you want to be a part of the premium message board and part of IB Nation officially, jump on the boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All kinds of great stuff there. And of course, a bunch of written content as well over at irishbreakdown.com.